Hello everyone, my name is Roya and I'm going to be telling you guys today about 4 readathons that I'm participating in that I'm using the same books for because they all overlap. Or I'm mostly using the same books anyway. This is iPod. She's a cat and she likes to sleep a lot, so she will probably only do one readathon, if even that, because she doesn't want to cut it into her sleep time too much. The first readathon is the Readorama readathon, and that starts on the 16th, goes to the 18th. It's just 3 days. It's really, really short. So there are just 3 challenges. So the first challenge is to pick a book from your TBR jar. Now, just in time, I actually have a totally new TBR jar system in place for the coming year. So I already put some book titles in here. This jar is all full of book titles that I have not read that I bought in the past year. So we're just gonna pick one of these and have that be our TBR jar pick for that challenge. So it is The Blood of Flowers. And here we have The Blood of Flowers. So I'm actually really, really excited to read this book because I've been meaning to get to it like all year long and I just haven't. And also this meets the other challenge of reading a book with fall colors on it, so hooray. And then the third and final challenge of this readathon is to read 3 books. I don't know what the other 2 are going to be, but I guess we will find out. The next readathon that I'm going to tell you guys about is the Tometopple readathon, and this is hosted by Sam from Thoughts on Tomes, and it is focusing on big books. So there are challenges for this that these books pretty much do meet, but I'm just not going to pay that much attention to them. An Accident of Stars and Chime Hour, and both of these are not actually 500 pages. They're like 490 pages or something like that, but honestly, since I have spent so many rounds of Tometopple reading books that have like 800 pages, I am just gonna say, you know, 10 pages shy of 500 is just gonna count, okay? Like, whatever. Tometopple also starts on the 16th, just so you know, and it goes until November 29th. So the third readathon, so now I'm going to get into 2 that start on the 18th, and they basically also go for like the whole rest of the month. So the first of them is the Fall into Fantasy readathon. So this was actually a readathon created by Penguin Teen, and they partnered with some booktubers to help host it. So the hosts are Hails in Bookland, Problems of a Book Nerd, Naya Reads and Smiles, and Emma Books. And these challenges, I'm not going to say them in order, I'm just saying them in order of kind of what books I have here in this pile. So firstly, we have an LGBTQIAP+ book, and for that I'm going to read An Accident of Stars. This is actually a winner of the Bisexual Book Award. I don't know what year. It might have just been a nominee, but I think it was a winner. But yeah, so this has a bisexual protagonist. The next book that I'm going to show you meets 2 of the challenges, and that is to read a new series and read a diverse book. And so for those, I'm going to read Beasts Made of Night, which is actually a Penguin Teen book. Hooray! Then the next book I have here is for the challenge of reading a book that was recommended to you by BookTube, and that is of course going to be The Last Song Before Night. This was recommended to me by Kelsey from the Fancy Hat Lady Reads, and I'm going to use the same book for all the rest of the challenges, and that is a book with multiple points of views, a new fantasy sequel, and a book that has been on your TBR for too long. So I actually just got this book, but it had actually been on my TBR all year. That is Retribution by Jennifer Fallon. So I am using this book for all the rest of the challenges in this readathon, so I'm very excited. So then the last readathon that I have to tell you guys about is the One Readathon to Rule Them All, which is also a fantasy readathon, so I'm going to be using many of these same books. But anyway, this readathon, obviously, each challenge has to do with a place in Middle-earth, so that you are going along and getting the ring to Mordor, and it doesn't really matter what order you're reading them in, or if you're doubling up. So I'm going to use An Accident of Stars for Rivendell, which is an LGBTQIAP+ book, and Rohan, which is a book with a female main character. Beast Maid of Night I'm going to use for Bree, which is a book set in a non-European setting, and Gondor, which is a book with person of color representation. Then I'm going to use Chime Hour for 3 of the challenges. That's going to be Fangorn Forest, a book with magical and or supernatural creatures, Moria, a grimdark fantasy or a fantasy with spooky elements, and Lorien, which is read a fantasy book published by an indie press. And finally, I'm going to read The Last Song Before Night for Helm's Deep, which is a standalone, and finally Mordor, which is the conclusion or most recent installment of a series, and standalones do count, and this is a standalone. So hooray! So there are just a couple of challenges that I'm not doing in this readathon, and that is The Shire, which is reread a favorite fantasy book, and I don't reread that much stuff really, so I'm just skipping that one. I mean, if I didn't have a huge TBR pile already here, then I would just do that one, but whatever. And then Isengard is read a fantasy book with a villain main character, and I have no idea if any of these books are from a villain main character or point of view. I actually assume Retribution might be because it has so many different points of views. And then I forgot about Minas Tirith, which is read a fantasy book, and these are all fantasy books. So these are the books that I plan to read for Readorama, Tometopple, Fall Into Fantasy Readathon, and the One Readathon to rule them all, which all take place basically between the 16th and the end of the month. So this is, you know, pretty reasonable for a TBR for the second half of a month. I mean, 5 or 6 books is pretty much my standard per 2 weeks, so I guess it's not like super ambitious or anything, and I really do want to get to all of these books, so I am very excited. But anyway, let me know if you guys are participating in any of these readathons, and if so, what you're most excited to read, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!